Hey peeps, welcome back to the Growth Lab podcast. I'm your host Matt Harris and I run the Growth Lab, a lead generation consultancy for commercial cleaning businesses. In today's episode, I chat with Chris Guilfoyle, director of JCD Cleaning. Chris has been involved in the cleaning industry for 17 years and started his journey as a data suite cleaning operative. He moved up the ranks to regional manager for one of the UK's largest cleaning companies, managing a portfolio of over £10 million in value. After cutting his teeth, Chris started JCD Cleaning and within 5 years has scaled the business to 7 figures in revenue. We talk about growing his business too quickly before stagnating, taking a step back to systemize his business in order to scale, inbound and outbound marketing to generate leads, and the tender process for 6 and 7 figure cleaning contracts. For more tips on lead generation and insights on the most successful strategies, tools, and tactics to help grow your commercial cleaning business, sign up for the Growth Lab newsletter via the link in the episode description. That being said, let's dive in.
Hey Chris, thanks for joining us on the show. Really appreciate your time. So just to give the listeners a bit of background about yourself and how you got started in the cleaning industry.
Yep. So my name's Chris Guilfoyle. I'm the director of JCD Cleaning, which is a commercial and specialist cleaning company based in the southeast of England. For my sins and not listening to school, I sort of fell into the cleaning industry, probably like most people in the industry, just as probably a little bit of a stopgap, I initially thought, just to pay for going out with my friends that just left sort of, latter education. I wasn't really sure what I want to do. My mum was working on quite a high profile cleaning contract, cleaning supervisor job. It's 8 hours a day, it keeps you busy. So I started that as a cleaning supervisor. And then I've never left. In 2014, family business, me, dad, brother, mum, we're all in the business. And going since 2014, and we're around the 2 million mark in terms of revenue now. And yeah, we cover a wide range of contracts across Kent, London and the South East.
You mentioned the revenue mark. Has that been a steady progress in terms of growth, or was there one particular year?
We were quite fortunate in the early days, Matt. There's always it's all luck, but right place, right time, and meet the right people. We managed to land relatively big back early on. Pure luck. I'll say this one was luck. Bound inquiry, the customer called us, and we managed to get that over the line. And that was a 6-figure contract, pretty much within the first year.
Oh, wow.
The back end of last year, so December 2021, we managed to land our first 7-figure contract in terms of its value, and that bumped us up relatively quickly. But in terms of growth, I'd say the first 4 years we were sort of done in over, and then it sort of stagnated a little bit, mainly because we lacked a little bit of direction of where we wanted to be. Around the halfway mark, we were saying yes to everything, know what sector we wanted to be in, or if we wanted to niche down in a particular industry. We were all over the place. And I think had we knuckled down, we would be a little bit bigger than we are now. But it's been steady. Don't get me wrong, we've had a couple of big injections with some big contract wins, but it's been pretty steady.
The reason for your stagnation, like you say, because you couldn't find any direction. Mostly, I certainly experienced it when I started. You say yes to everything, like you said, yeah, let's go. Was it really then, once you'd stagnated and you kind of, got the team together and thought, look, where is it where we're making, good money? Where is it where we can specialize? Where is it where we can niche down? And did that then enable you to go on to the next stage in terms of winning this big contract?
I think, there's that old saying that sometimes you have to take a couple of steps back to take steps forward. I say around 2019, I looked back at the business. We had loads of staff. But when you actually take a step back and look at, are your contracts actually profitable? Is that not you any money because the contractor's overrun and you gave them a fixed price? We took a bit of a backwards. My business partners, they tend to be more operationally focused, and I'm more commercially minded. Took a step back. Look, we're getting bigger. And it's the real processes in place. Most don't have any systems or anything like that. And we were guilty of that. A bit of a backward step and say, actually, this has got legs now. We realise that. And we've got some good customer base. We've got, we've got studies and all that good stuff. Now's the time just to take a little bit of a step back, look at it from side view, start getting some systems in place, actually start saying no. That's quite a big one. Because easy to just say yes to everything because you want the revenue.
Yeah.
When you actually look down at it, if you're not getting any money on it and you're getting loads of stress, you've got cleaning staff not turning up or projects overrun, whatever it may be, having revenue from say just doesn't work. And I think we took that step back. Right, let's systemize. Let's everybody knows what they're doing in terms of job roles, and there's not that crossover.
Yeah.
And get a bit of all that was worse for you. It's just chaos, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, it got us a result, but that's not sustainable for you as a business owner. It's not sustainable for your staff. Then that starts to have a negative effect on customers. So sometimes it's worth just taking a little bit backward step, reassessing the situation. When we onboard a client, they come in for a sales funnel. They've got that sales process. Process is all. It just makes everybody's life a lot easier, and then that helps you grow because the process is going to be the same for every customer, and you're going to get the end result. That's probably what happened. That midway point. I say, out of chaos comes order. They say sometimes.
Yeah. And how long did that process take for you to sort of realize, okay, let's take that step back, understand where the strengths are in the business, understand what we need to do to systemize it, from making the decision to actually going through the painful process of implementing all that? How long did that process take for you?
I would say, if I'm really honest, and we've had some people like yourself come in the business and help with systemization, making sure we've got sort of the right structure in place to grow, and that was helpful. And although we've got, I'd say end to end for it to be fully functional was probably around a 12-month period. We see a slight dip in revenue, but it was definitely worth it from my own sanity as a business owner. Sometimes just taking that backward step and maybe getting someone else that's been there or has got experience in growing a business, getting it to a place where maybe you want to be, someone that's been there and done it. It is a good thing. We've done that. The process took around 12 months, but it was definitely worth it. Everybody knows what they're doing, everything's structured. That customer journey is mapped from start to finish. But don't get me wrong, running a business is going to be stressful. It's not all rainbows like everyone tries to tell you. When processes in place and what should be done, and everybody knows where they fit into the puzzle.
And with those processes, like, what was the hardest part to implement? What was it? Was it the systems? Was it getting the team on board and the staff and the contractors on board with the new operating procedure? Was it finding the new clients, identifying your niche? Like, which aspect of it do you think was the biggest challenge for you as a business?
The honest part is, when you've been going for 4 years, as we have time, everyone's got a way of doing things, even though it's right, not necessarily the right way. I've got operators with their timesheets on an Excel spreadsheet, for 40 odd staff. The guy to getting a paper off, and change management is always that hard part. So it's not necessarily the systems, because I always simple, because I don't want to overcomplicate some of these systems. They can be ginormous and very, very complex. It's just that change of mindset to say, look, the way we're doing it might seem like it's working for you, but there's lots down the process. We need to change that. And just getting everybody on board with it was a little bit of a slog. Like myself, once you're down the line and it's in, and everybody then gets used to that new way of working, it's better for everybody, and they see the benefit of that. But sometimes, as we know, people that have been doing jobs a certain way for a long time, when you try and change or put something new in the process, the barriers come up, and they're like, oh no, I liked it how it was before. But so probably that management from a staff perspective, because you've got a lot of people to deal with. But once it was done, and now got used to a new way of working, it's just come second nature to everybody.
I'm guessing the new way has made it easier for them as well, right? So as much as there was objection at the start, the fact that now they've taken it on board, it just kind of makes things work a lot more seamlessly for them as well, which means they can just get on with what they need to do.
Seeing how they order their materials, before they'd ring up Sharon and say, oh, Sharon, I need X, Y, Z. We're all human. If something comes up and Sharon forgets, and then they go, oh, well, you can't have instances like that. And we pride ourselves on proactive management. So for team to bring me up and say, oh, I've run out of cleaning chemicals, that's just like a no-go. That's just non-negotiables. Process in place, they know that if they put an order form in, it's going to get processed without Sharon or anyone to have a look through it and approve it. It goes through, it gets ordered to site. So it makes everybody's easier. Of course, I say it comes with a little bit of change management, which is fine for older staff, but all your new staff, and the method from from day one. So it just makes everybody's life a little bit easier. And you have got to do that. It's something I'd done earlier from the off. There are free resources out there. At first, diary management, CRMs. They don't cost you any money, but they're good to get in. As you grow and you get more people, you can get more complex systems and paid versions and that do all sorts of stuff. Even as a startup, I wish I'd got them in earlier. And that's because I had no one giving me any direction, to be honest. So it's just, it was just a wing and a prayer, really. We got there in the end, but as I say, definitely systems in early on.
Do you think you would have won your 7-figure contract had you not gone through the changes that you went through?
I mean, no is probably the short answer. Especially big customers, they want to know that you've got systems in place to deal with X, Y, Z. You could then get in the realms of 2001 quality management system. So you're gonna to achieve something like that, you need to have systems in place. This particular customer, they're spending a lot of money, so there was a lot of lead-in time to actually converting that to an actual customer. Yeah. And they wanted to come and see our office. They wanted to see our operations, which we was able to demonstrate. And if you if they're going in the cleaning cupboard, there's no chemicals there, the form or whatever it may be, it just doesn't instill any confidence, does it? So now we're growing, and then when we tender for larger contracts or we're dealing with customers, we can make reference to that to say, look, we've got a quality management system in place which we use, and it's all there documented, and it's not you saying you're good, you can then prove it. And that's what a lot larger cleaning contracts are about, proving that you can actually deliver on the ground.
So there's a couple of things that you mentioned there which I want to double click on. One is you said the process for getting this client on board as an actual client was quite a long lead-in time. How did the opportunity come about in the first instance? I know you mentioned sales funnels early on in the conversation. Like, what does your client outreach approach look like, and what does that onboarding process look like for like the bigger client as well? So two different bits. So deal with the client outreach first, because I think that's one thing that a lot of smaller business owners get stuck on, and then just to give people an insight as to what it looks like to win a 7-figure contract, like what the steps that you had to go through to eventually win that client.
Early days, and we still do a wide variety of outbound and inbound sales processing. So what do they look like? So we do a lot on social media, and the early days of my business, I remember I was working for a large FM company and start business on the side as that's the sensible thing to do, right? I know these gurus online tell you to go all in and just do your passion.
Burn your boats, that's it. Yeah. No turning back.
I understand the logic behind it. We wouldn't recommend it quite calm if you're on the street. So I was working both, and I used to do an outbound via LinkedIn, which is how we were introduced to each other. So I would literally send office managers messages on LinkedIn, and it was a bit of a scattergun approach, don't get me wrong, but that gave leads, and we got some business out of it. So social media is a big one, and one I'm a big advocate for a number of reasons. Outbound marketing, so simple email marketing campaigns, quite often early days and still do now. Now it's a little bit more sporadic because our customer has changed. When we were first starting with no revenue, you would, if Mary had an office down that needed 2 hours cleaning just on a Friday, we would take business like that. But as we did. So email marketing is another big one. One that we actually spend quite money on now is SEO, search engine optimization. Making sure our website is the top of Google, which we've got a lot of domain authority now, so we a lot of customers come to us, which is the ultimate goal, right? Because as we and the sales process, and this is something that I get the audience to just be conscious of, is when you're running a business, you wear many different hats, and the cleaner might call sick and contract for a week. And what that does, it brings peaks and troughs in the sales process. So making sure, you've got your email campaigns, you've got your inbound stuff coming in by SEO, give you constant stuff coming in, even if you're not doing anything outbound. Basically, if you stop, you don't want your leads to stop coming in, because then you're going to be super and then it's quiet, and you're always going to have them up. So making sure your website ranks well is a big one. Get bigger contracts is probably a lot that people ask me when I deal with business owners that are maybe slightly large, and we're not big by any stretch of the imagination. There are tender portals out there which are generally larger cleaning contracts. But our biggest via SEO. So they have effectively come to us on all occasions, which is unusual, to be honest. So definitely make sure your website is super up to date. We're actually next year recruiting for our first sales, business development manager. So they will then aim to grow up. It's a bit of a scattergun approach. Make sure your website's okay. Get some email campaigns going. Try to use social media and reach out to people. Don't get me wrong, out of 10, you'll probably get one reply, but you've just got to keep going with it. Don't be scared of anyone on LinkedIn saying, I'm in sales emails. It's a tool at the end of the day, and you've got to utilize it. The tender process, a large customer, takes a lot of time. So depending on generally pre-qualification questionnaire, so they want to make sure that the people that are quoting for this job are capable of their time with 15 different contractors. So you've got to go through that process, and then your process itself, which we actively decide not to bid on more contracts than we actually bid for. And the reason for that is the industry notorious price. Now, of course, we want to make sure everybody gets a fair price. But when I pick up a tender or I look at it, usually at the top of the document, it will tell you how it's weighted. So it will say, right, 60% of this out of 100 go to whoever is the cheapest price. And just by pure 50% is more than 40%. So if you've got the best quality of all the cleaning companies in the UK, you are not win that contract based on price. So I would never, no matter how much I like the contract or the client worth in terms of, kudos for having that particular client, we don't have contracts that are 60-40 in terms of cost or above. Sometimes they are above. Because they take so much time. A tender process from end to end can take 2-3 months invested in terms of in the document, doing the walkarounds, etc. So we're a little bit selective with that documentation that needs to be filled in, and it's good to start keeping case studies to build up. You've got some examples of projects you've carried out or contracts that are similar to the one that you're tendering for, and you can put them in tender. But they take a lot of nursing. I mean, I've got one at the moment which is another big one, a well-known company. I told you would instantly recognise the brand. I've been conversing with them for around 18 months now, and they're a global company, and management changes, someone else picks it up, you've got to build a pool, and then they say, can you review the price and send it again because 6 months have gone by, and obviously the cost of living up, wages are going up. So a public sector tender, so a school, they're relatively sync with their deadlines, and they can take anything from 2 to 3 months. Some can take 12 months plus to get over the line. So it really depends on but if you want the business, you just got to keep with it.
And is there an average number of tenders that you tend to apply for in a year? I know obviously you're getting more selective, and I guess that harks back to your niche. Do you at the start of every year go, okay, this year 10 tenders or 5, whatever it is, that's what we're going to go for, provided they meet this criteria?
Particularly, I would just look at the opportunity and think, right, is this a contract that we give up and deliver well? Is it an area of cleaning that we've got some experience in? And many different factors, and just assess them on a case-by-case basis. If someone put a tender on and it met our business criteria in terms of we could deliver this and deliver it well, because obviously we're hungry for that growth, and we're not where I want the business yet. But it's not something we have a set amount. It's just on a case-by-case basis, and if we think we makes us money, then we're obviously going to go for it.
And obviously public sector tenders, you mentioned you can go on local government websites. With the bigger, like this global brand that you mentioned, how did you come across that opportunity, or how do you find those opportunities?
This one come to us, Matt. It was an inbound inquiry, and they had a one-off project, which we did, and it went well, and we built a bit of rapport with the procurement lead. And then he said, look, I've got this contract coming up, would you be interested in it? And I said, yeah, of course, we would love to. And it hasn't got across the line yet, unfortunately. but we're inching ever closer to it. So again, inbound, making sure that when somebody was a warehouse clean, warehouse cleaning Southeast, we're number one. And that pays dividends in the end because you get customers coming to you. And I say it's not reliant because they're coming to you and you going to them.
So Lucas, we've been going for nearly half an hour. I'm going to ask one more question before we go to the quick fire round. And that is, with all the experience that you've taken us through in terms of, starting with a bit of organized chaos, taking a step back, getting reflection, and then focusing on what you really want to niche down on in terms of the business to focus on for growth going forward. Like, what's the one lesson that your business has taught you that you think, other cleaning business owners should learn early on in their business journey?
Yeah, I know that answer instinctive, and everyone's guilty of this early on. Ability is a big thing because, I'll give you a couple of examples. You meet someone and feel like you get on well. They're explaining a project or a one-off job, and you think, it just doesn't sound right. But your natural inclination is to say, yeah, okay, we'll do this, and then they don't pay. Job goes on, because everyone's perception of cleaning is very drastically different. I've had tens of thousands of pounds at play when I knew this customer was a pain in the backside, and I should have said no to the project. But sometimes when you see this project's worth that, or someone wants to be seen to clean, it can be hard. And I think having the ability to be comfortable, just say, no, look, it's not for me at the moment. One that I wish I'd learned, something I'm better at now. As I say, we know what we want to do and where we want to be. If someone comes in that doesn't meet that criteria, I say, look, I'm really sorry, it's not for us. I wish you all the best with it. And that goes with staff as well. The early days, I asked them to come to me and go, oh, Chris, I'm a bit short this month. Can you lend me, X, Y, Z? And, times are hard. But, someone I've advanced on my wages this month, in early days, I'd be like, oh, okay, because I don't want this guy to leave. Saying yes can get you in all sorts of bother, especially if in your gut, really should be saying so. I've learned that and got more comfortable with that early on. Something that I'm better at now, but to say no when you know that you should be saying no will hold you in good stead and save you a few sleepless nights.
Nice. So look, we'll head into our quick fire round. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Before I do that, I know there's a bunch that we haven't explored. I know as part of the onboarding process for the podcast, you mentioned about youth employment in the industry and how you wanted to raise that profile as well. So I would, if you're open to it, like to have a second installment of this, because there's definitely avenues that we haven't gone down, which are open for discussion. But to head into the quick fire round, so the one question that I was going to ask was, what was going to be the one piece of advice you'd give to your younger self? But it sounds like that would be saying no.
Yeah, most definitely. I said yes to that. I'm comfortable doing it because you didn't get the right vibe from site, and I've got money doing it. You're looking at a project and it's pure chaos, and they go, "Oh no, we're going to be ready for your cleaning team next week." Look, thinking you're not. There's just no way in hell this is going to be ready. But you say yes anyway. You turn up on the day. It's like Piccadilly Circus. You're trying to clean, and the customer goes to you, "Well, you haven't completed the job. You've got to come back tomorrow." But, well, you gave me a fixed price. It's tough. It's not ready. You've got to come back, and before you know it, you've got to send the team back. Got there and say, no, this is not for us. Or you've got a customer that wants 1 hour in the arse end of nowhere. And they go, oh, well, I've only got this budget. And you go, oh, all right, I'll squeeze it in. And it's going to be a headache. If you just said you wouldn't have that headache, and you don't damage your reputation, you don't annoy the client, and you can sleep.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so what are the 3 non-negotiable skills that you think are essential to growing your cleaning business?
People management and speaking with people. I have to deal with cleaning staff, technicians on a daily basis. I also am comfortable with sitting in a meeting with the CEO of a multi-company. So having good people skills at all levels is a must. And the best people I've seen and learned from, they've all had they're people, they can speak with people all levels. Hard work is one. Obviously, cleaning is done generally early morning or in the evening. So having that work ethic, is quite easy especially when you get a little bigger and you've got staff that are out, doing bits and pieces for you, making sure they're supported. So you've got to have that work ethic. After a long day, sometimes thing you want to do is, see someone Joan on a contract down the road, but you've got to be able to do that and stay consistent. The last one is just determination. In such a saturated industry, you've got to have a lot of no's before you get your yes. So just having, that determination just to keep going and not tell is something that will hold most business owners in good stead.
Perfect. And Chris, as we wrap this up, where can people find you online?
We are on all social media platforms. So if you type in JCD Cleaning, pretty much all social media platforms, we will come up. Social media is something we try and do a lot of because, as you mentioned, Matt, we're trying to open the industry to younger eyes, and they consume their content generally on social. So we're quite big on that. JCD Cleaning on any social platform will come up. And obviously my name is Chris Guilfoyle, so type that in if you want. My personal accounts, which are very much business related, to be honest. I don't put much personal life on there. You'll find us on all of them.
Perfect. Nice one, Chris. Look, really appreciate your time. I know it's early doors as we're recording this, so I hope you enjoyed the rest of your day.
The rest of the day.
And yeah, I'll speak to you soon, mate.
Thanks to Chris for joining us on the Growth Lab podcast, and thanks to you guys for listening. You can access the show notes and resources via the link in the episode description. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others who you think will find it useful across social media, or leave a rating and review on whatever podcast platform you listen to. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @IAM_Matt Harris. That's MATTHARRIS to catch all the latest from the Growth Lab and how to generate more contract opportunities for your cleaning business. See you next time. And remember, if your cleaning business isn't growing, it's dying.